I'm going to do my best not to sound frustrated, because I've tried to set this video up for the last half hour and everything has happened that could. The pool filter was on, then the mower came on, then these birds had a fight right above me. It's been nutty. And then I went in to the house to do it, and David decided, since I was out here, to go make breakfast. And that is, the acoustics are right where my desk is. So I'm determined. There is something that I need to do, and that is to communicate this book to you. It's called Footprints in Time. It was written for the period from 1776 to 1876. And it's a very thick book, and so I won't be reading the whole thing, but what I would like to do is share both the preface and the introduction and have you try to read between the lines and see what it's telling us that it doesn't want to come right out and tell us, right? So see what you think, and I'll try and keep my comments to myself until later. Preface. It is the object of this book to supply the means of forming an accurate idea of the American government. The author has adopted the proposition that the highest form of government is one of the people, by the people, and for the people, meaning the majority of the people, I believe, and believes that a constant progress commencing in the earliest times had reached its full development in the Great Republic. He therefore traces the footprints of time through all history, notes the gradual unfolding of institutions, the rise and fall of empires, the causes that produced and destroyed ancient republics, and the origin of the forces that give so much more strength and stability to modern civilization. All of this he considers essential to a correct appreciation of the wonderful events of our age and our country. Can't wait to hear this. He then proceeds to a close and clear analysis of the whole structure of government. Each general division with its subdivisions is examined in detail, but successively, so that a definite picture of it with all its branches, operations, and relations to its other parts stands before the mind as a sharply defined whole. The executive, legislative, and judicial divisions, the dependent parts of each kept in their proper place, come in order, one after the other, before the mind, the structure, powers, and working of each being fully explained. This book is indeed a compilation, and the matter in large part from official sources, but collected from an astonishingly large number of books, all which are not to be found even in the largest public libraries. But the labor and merit of gathering so much information from all directions and compressing a library into a form and compass so convenient and so well arranged in so few and well-chosen words has been a great deal indeed. All the works heretofore brought before the public proposing to meet this want has been fragmentary, or have treated at too great length but a portion of the subject. So everybody knows a lot about a little, but not a lot about a lot. A complete summary or citizen's manual is here furnished that includes a sufficiently detailed analysis of the entire structure of government, developing in a clear and comprehensive manner the organization, powers, relations, and principles on which they rest, and the spirit that permeates them all, without which they would be dead. That's my note. It lays our history so far under contribution as to show us the occasion that produced each institution, the gradual growth of the grand edifice, and the causes that controlled and shaped the whole. In short, it gives us an adequate reason for the form of our institutions, even so far back as earlier history of humanity, when the tendencies that have borne this fruit first began to appear in human history. The publisher. Interesting. Introduction. It is our happiness to live in an age whose masterpieces of accomplishment in science, industry, and commerce put to shame the extravagant fictions of Oriental tales and the wonders ascribed to the gods and heroes of ancient mythology. The changes produced by recent investigations and discoveries are so vast and so rapid that it is difficult to follow them or comprehend the power and thoroughness of the transformations that are taking place in the world around us. The applications of steam and electricity astonish us by their widespread influence on the condition and relations of men. The ease and speed of movement and intercourse, constantly increasing, are ever putting us in new and unfamiliar places. We have hardly accustomed our thoughts and habits to one before we're hurried to the other. The constantly clearer and more abundant light shed by science and the press does not suffice to keep our minds fully up to the progress that goes on in all departments of life. It is plain that we have entered on a new era, the most extraordinary and momentous the world has ever seen. The old and imperfect is being cleared away and everything thoroughly reconstructed. The explanation is that we are now setting up the grand temple of civilization, the separate stones and pillars of which each nation and age was commissioned to hew and carve, and so to speak, left in the quarry to await the time when, all the material being ready, the master builder should collect all the scattered parts and raise the whole edifice at once, to the astonishment and joy of mankind. All the institutions and civilizations of the past may be considered temporary, erected in haste from the materials nearest at hand, not for permanence, but to serve the present turn, while the special task of the nation or age was being performed. The races and ages nearer the birth of mankind worked on rougher parts of the edifice that entered into the foundations. Those grand races, the Greek and the Roman, furnished the noble outline which the nations of modern Europe perfected, while they supplied what was still lacking for use and adornment. America was reserved, designedly, for so many ages, to furnish a suitable and unencumbered location for the central halls and mightiest pillars of the completed structure. Our fathers cleared the ground and laid the foundation deep down on the living rock, that is to say, on human rights, that they seldom failed to place stone, pillar, and column in just position. The work, as we find it, proves, and we have little to do but to clear away the rubbish beautify the grounds, and put the whole to its proper use. I'm going to read that again because I don't think I read it quite right. So our fathers cleared the ground and laid the foundation deep down on the living rock, that is to say, on human rights, the rights of humans. Now, how do you see that? Is the right of one human the right of another? No, because I don't want the rights you want. So, are the rights of those at the top the most important rights? But it says here, of the people, of the humans. So how does that work? That they seldom failed, so our fathers cleared the ground and laid the foundation deep down on the living rock, that is to say, on human rights, that they seldom failed to place stone, pillar, and column in just position. The work, as we find it, proves, and we have little to do but to clear away the rubbish, beautify the grounds, and put the whole to its proper use. We begin to see that time, thought, and experience have not wrought in vain, that progress is not a phantom of imagination, and that the human race is essentially a unit that has been growing through all the centuries and is now approaching the prime of its manhood, just ready to enter onto its special career with its grandest work yet to be done. The energies of all the races are preparing for unheard of achievements. The world was never so completely, so wisely busy as now. And America stands between modern Europe and ancient Asia, receiving from and giving to both. Her institutions are founded on principles so just and so humane that when administered with due wisdom and skill, they will embarrass and restrain the proper activities of men at no point. America stands a model which other nations will carefully copy in due time as they can adapt themselves and change their institutions. It may not be a literal copy, a servile imitation, but there's little doubt that our Declaration of Independence will finally enter in spirit and potential influence into the intimate structure of all governments. It is the course of human progress and the important elements that were successively added as each leading phase of civilization appeared that is endeavored to be traced in the historical review of the first part of this book. While following the general march of events chronologically, we have stopped here and there to take a general survey in order to better understand the significance of detached facts or to examine a new influence that enters among the forces molding the future. Our space did not allow an exhaustive process, nor was it desirable. We've taken note of only the more important landmarks of progress. Too much detail would confuse the mind by engaging it in an intricate mass of facts. It is the thread of events that joins the nations and ages together, or the channel by which they sent down to our day, from Asia to Europe, from Europe to America, each their special contribution to the political wisdom and the free institutions of America that we have endeavored to find. We hope we have not underrated any people or any time, and that we have not overrated the value and glory of America. America is yet young. Its founders, the authors of its Constitution, were unaware of the singular excellence and nobility of their work. Like other people, they built according to their genius and instincts. Time could only show whether they built for immortality. They feared and trembled over their work, but time has set its seal of approval on it. Our people are busy using their liberties and energies, each for its individual benefit, as is quite right and proper, since the welfare of individuals makes the prosperity of the community. But a government left to take care of itself is prone to do that work a little too well. We have done well and wisely in important crises, but a more intelligent and constant watchfulness over the ordinary course of public affairs would have been still better. It is plain that the general mind among us has grown clearer and more accurate in its judgments as experience has accumulated, for the original direction toward popular freedom has not changed. Various incongruities have been laid aside and oversights corrected. The severe strain of civil war and an unheard of rapidity of growth have not shaken, but more clearly revealed the strength and unity of the nation. Yet, more intelligence and more care would have saved us many shocks and made our success more pronounced and more brilliant. Knowledge is power when wisely applied, and a more accurate acquaintance with their government and its history will enable American citizens to mold it more wisely still, to correct all defects of administration, and to speedily reach that minimum of governmental interference with the efforts and interest of the citizens, which shall give them the fullest liberty consistent with security and surrender the whole round of human life as completely as possible to the benefit, action of natural law. CB. Isn't that interesting? I found it really interesting until I realized it was the 1800s and that we had not gone through such ugliness with the wars and all our nice little three-letter orgs. So very interesting, right? There's so much more. I've got pages marked. One page that I have marked here is section 12, page 121, the Christian era. Era, not error, era. And I thought this was important. By some chronological confusion, the new era has been made to begin 4 years before the appearance of the founder of Christianity. When Augustus had settled the whole empire, he ordered the temple of Janus to be closed and a census taken of all its inhabitants, which numbered 120 millions. On this occasion, Jesus Christ was born. 10. That was 4. This is 10. A Roman army under Varus was defeated and cut to pieces in Germany. It was the severest defeat the Romans had suffered since the overthrow and death of Crassus by the Parthians 63 years before. 63 years, right? 14. The Emperor Augustus died and was succeeded by his stepson, Tiberius. 29. Jesus Christ was crucified by Pontius Pilate, Roman governor of Judea, at the solicitation and on the accusation of the leading Jews. 37. Tiberius died and was succeeded by Caligula. The commencement of the reign of Tiberius was wise and moderate, but he soon became violent and cruel. Caligula was still a greater monster of wickedness. 40. Growing weary of his cruelty, he was assassinated by one of his officers, and his uncle Claudius was raised to the throne. He was of feeble intellect and became the tool of infamous favorites. He was poisoned by order of his wife, Agrippina. 54. Nero, the son of Agrippina, by a former husband, was made emperor at 17 years of age. He exceeded all description in folly, extravagance, and crime. His violence and barbarity fell generally on the patricians and members of his court, but he was esteemed by the common people, as were most of the emperors who spent vast sums on theater and spectacles for their amusement. The two bases of the empire were populace and the army. The emperor was terrible and tyrannical, chiefly to the patricians, while the army made him formidable to the provinces and to the barbarians. A conflagration, which some attributed to the orders of Nero, lasted 9 days and destroyed the greater part of Rome. Nero cast the blame on the Christians, who had become numerous, and raised a horrible persecution against them. 66. Number. The Jews rebelled and defied the Roman Empire. 68. Nero was dethroned by the Roman Senate and army and committed suicide to avoid punishment for his crimes. 69. 3 emperors, Galba, Otho, and Vitellius, were placed on the throne in succession, but rebellions were raised against them and all were put to death. Vespasian, then besieging Jerusalem, was proclaimed emperor by his army at the desire of the rulers of the eastern provinces, and in the same year overcame all opposition and commenced the first reign since Augustus that was free from disgraceful profligacy and public crime. This is long. Okay, yeah, this is long. This is some chronology, and some of it is really important. So maybe I'll just finish. Titus, the son of Vespasian, was captured and destroyed Jerusalem. Vespasian, during a reign of 10 years, restored order and prosperity to Rome and the empire, but not without great labor and danger. 79. Titus succeeded as emperor and was remarkable for his clemency and care for his subjects. During his reign occurred the most fearful eruption of the volcano Vesuvius on record. Herculaneum and Pompeii, 2 wealthy and flourishing cities, were destroyed, being buried by ashes. Pliny, an eminent writer, was suffocated while observing the eruption. 81. Titus died to the great grief and loss of mankind and was succeeded by his brother Domitian, who was one of the most infamous rulers that ever desolated the earth. He raised a violent persecution against the Christians for refusing to adore his statues and worship him as God. Among the victims was his own cousin Clemens, who had embraced Christianity. He was assassinated by his wife and officers in self-defense, and the Senate proclaimed Nerva, a native of Crete, emperor. He was remarkable for his lenity and all the gentle virtues. He was followed after a reign of 2 years by Trajan, whom he had adopted as his colleague and successor, who is said to have been the greatest and most deserving person of his time. He was by birth a Spaniard, was wise, successful as a warrior and statesman, and entirely noble as a man. He bridged the Danube and Euphrates rivers and conquered both the Germans and Parthians in the north and east of the empire. A stain on his memory was the persecution of the Christians. He was succeeded by Adrian, in whose reign all the Roman laws were compiled in one body, and the law assumed the dignity of a science. He promoted literature but continued the persecution of Christians. A rebellion of the Jews was punished with merciless severity in 139 and was followed by Antonio Pius, who suspended all persecution of Christians, promoted the best interest of all parts of the empire, and introduced during a prosperous reign of 22 years the most important reforms of every part of government. Okay, this is really interesting, but I'm not going to read it all. Too much for me. So let me go to my other markers. I've got another marker here at chapter 3 called the cabinet. I can't tell what I marked it for. And then I got another marker here. Indian Bureau. Indian Bureau of the Interior Department. It is presided over by a Commissioner of Indian Affairs appointed in the usual way by the President and Senate. Numerous superintendents and agents are appointed to reside near the different locations assigned to the Indians to conduct the business under his supervision and receive and distribute goods and monies given by treaty to each tribe. They give bonds for faithfulness in the employment of funds destined for the Indians. They are appointed for 4 years and report an account to the Department of Interior. Except a few who are taxed, the Indians are not counted among our population as citizens. They have, therefore, no representation in Congress, nor, except the criminal law to some extent, are they amenable to other of our laws as such treaties have established. Their internal government is conducted by themselves alone, neither government, governor, judge, nor courts being established, as in other territorial jurisdictions. They are difficult to control, however, not recognized as a civilized people, except a small number who are far on the way to civilization. The obligations of treaties and pledges. Dishonest and self-seeking men often take advantage of their ignorance and their love of ardent spirits and trinkets to cheat and injure them. To remedy this as far as possible, white men are not permitted to reside on the reservations unless a special license of the government, nor can they alienate their lands to white men not officially acting under government supervision. The Indian Territory is situated south of the 37th degree of north latitude and west of the states of Arkansas and Missouri. Texas bounds it on the south. It has 71,127 square miles, a third larger than the state of Illinois. Very fertile, for the most part beautiful. Inhabited in great part by Indians who have been transferred from the regions east of the Mississippi, mostly Cherokees, Creeks, Choctaw, and Seminoles. Some of these were removed by persuasion, some by force, some from their former homes, where they were disturbed by proximity to the rapidly increasing white population. Each tribe has its own section of the territory. Here they practice their own customs unmolested and conduct their own government. Many of them, especially the Cherokees, are intelligent and industrious. They have churches, schools, factories, highly cultivated farms, and good buildings. Improvement is so marked among them that it's not improbable that they may at some future time become a state in the Union. At present, they are amenable to the circuit and district courts of the adjoining states, where certain crimes committed by them against the whites in those states, but overcourts have no authority over their relations. The population of the territory is 70,000. The entire Indian population of the country is over 300,000. It is possible that as a race they will soon become extinct, except perhaps those in Indian Territory. They are uneasy and dangerous neighbors to the whites in those sparsely settled regions. The amount appropriated to the Indians by Congress for the year 1873 through 4 was $5,513,937, which were exclusive of their annuities or funds invested for them, of which they receive annual interest. And then there's a note on the Census Bureau, which, believe it or not, was an enumeration or counting of the inhabitants of any history done in very ancient times. Very, very interesting things that, I'm going to look up 1871. I'm always trying to find stuff out about it. So here, let's just read 1871 before I'm finished, because I've got lots of connections to it. Okay. 1871, great changes have been taking place in Europe. The Emperor Napoleon III, taken prisoner by the Germans, his government was set aside by the people of France, who founded a republic. January 1, at this time in the German army, under the lead of the King of Prussia, he was made Emperor of Germany at this time, is besieging Paris, the capital of France. On the 17th, the San Domingo Commission sailed from New York. On the 28th, Paris capitulates to the Germans, which ends the Franco-Prussian War. Terms of peace are arranged. On the 12th of February, Alice Cary died at New York. On the 16th, an important Japanese mission to the U.S. and other governments arrived at San Francisco. March 1st, the Germans made a triumphal entry into Paris. On the 20th, the British House of Commons votes $265,000 for the relief of Paris. April 20th, a bill against the Ku Klux, a secret organization of Southern conspirators and murderers, passed in Congress. On May 1, the Legal Tender Act, declared constitutional by the U.S. Supreme Court. That was bad. On the 31st, the French government does not imitate our clemency to prisoners taken in rebellion. The soldiers of the Commune are slaughtered by thousands by order of the court-martial of the government army. On June 18th, an earthquake on Long Island and Staten Island took place. On the 20th was the first Atlantic cable of 1865, which soon broke and became useless. It was recovered and worked. On July 5th, an earthquake took place at Visalia, California. On July 12th, Irish Catholic riot in New York, 51 killed, 30 wounded. On the 30th, the steamer Westfield exploded, killing nearly 100 people. On September 17th, the Mont Cenis Tunnel, operating a passage for a railroad 7 3/5 miles long through the Alps from France to Italy, was inaugurated. On October 2nd, Brigham Young, the head of the Mormons in Utah, was arrested for bigamy. On October 8th, a fire nearly consumed Chicago, destroying property worth $200 million and many lives. Fires raged in the forests of Wisconsin and Michigan. Much property, towns, and many persons are burned. On October 17th, South Carolina was placed under martial law. For $2,050,000 received in aid of the people of Chicago. Why was South Carolina? I don't know. On November 15th, cholera appeared on vessels in New York. On November 18th, the Grand Duke Alexis of Russia arrived at New York. On December 9th, commissioners of the English and U.S. governments met in Washington to settle the difficulties between two governments arising from the spoliations of the Alabama. On December 16th, Katakeshi, the Russian minister, called home at the request of our government. On December 29th, investigation of abuses in the New York City government started. W.M. Tweed surrendered to the sheriff. On January 2 in 1872, Brigham Young was arrested on a murder charge. Oh my gosh. I need to get deeper into this. I'd forgotten there's so much in here, that so many things that aren't in other areas. Interesting. I'm looking to see if I can still find a date. Our citizens of foreign birth. This talks about each state. What a different period of time. Okay, I think what I'll do is just tell you what the chapters are in here. It's also noted as the Historical Register. Historical Progress in the Old World. Section 1, The Dawn of History. Section 2, Direction of Prehistoric Growth, Readiness or Rudeness of Early Races. Section 3, Gradual Development, Condition of First Men. Section 4, Ancient Monarchies. Section 5, the Grecian States. Section 6, the Roman Republic. 7, Greece and Rome. 8, Decay of the Republic. 9, the Roman Empire. 10, Influence of Christianity. 11, the services of great men to mankind. 12, the Christian era, chronological history of emperors. The triumph of Christianity and its corruption. Section 13, the rise of modern nations. 14, the feudal system. 15, the liberties of the people. 16, the situation on the discovery of America. And 17, conclusion, summary of progress. And then chapter 2, the discovery of America. Chapter 3, history from 1492 to 1763. Chapter 4, origin of the revolution. 5, formation of the original Union. 6, Declaration of Independence. 7, Articles of Confederation. 8, Revolutionary War. 9, Constitution. 10, the Continental Congress. And then the second part, the government under the Constitution, the President, the Vice President, the Cabinet, Department of State, our representatives in foreign lands, treaties, business reps, passports, Department of Treasury, financial system, duties and tariffs, collection of duties, government coinage, national banking. I can't do it all. Wow. crazy. Yeah, the beginning is really interesting. So in part 1, it is saying that the early traditions of every nation has related its story of origin and has given us a confused account of supernatural persons and events, which the judgment of more enlightened times has almost uniformly considered fabulous and impossible. I think I'll start that on another tape.